Greetings, good people. I'm back here in France, and wow, did the previous video blow up. Definitely pushed some buttons in the gold and silver stacking community, and let me now address their points, because after all, this channel is about anonymizing and ghosting your wealth, and I want to drive one point across, and that is that gold and silver are simply too impractical to do that. Now, first off, let me make something very, very clear. I'm not saying that gold and silver isn't a great long-term hedge against inflation. No doubt about that. But that's completely different from saying that it's a good tool to anonymize your wealth from prying eyes. Let's start with KYC. Now, one of the commenters said that KYC checks only start after 10,000 euros in Holland. Now, maybe he's a Dutch citizen, maybe he knows somebody who doesn't ask for ID, but from my personal experience and our team's experience in Holland, they immediately ask for passports and IDs just to get into the door. Now, I've personally bought gold and silver in Latvia, Estonia, Poland, France, Holland, Germany, and Mexico. And in all of these places, they ask to get your photocopied passport and an ID check. Sure, they're probably outliers, but from our experience, unless you have an under-the-table relationship, you have to show ID, and that defeats the purpose of anonymity. Another guy said that gold doesn't weigh much. 10 coins is just about $30,000. Listen, I doubt he has ever traveled with 10 coins internationally. Even with less than that, I've had border security ask questions, and thank God they were numismatic coins, and I was able to pass myself off as an enthusiast. As I previously said, the only time it makes complete sense to own a lot of gold, a lot of silver, is if you're staying in one location for a very, very long time. If you live in one place for a very long time, by all means, keep on stacking. If you want to invest into bullion for a very long period of time, buy as much as you want. It's just not a practical way to ghost and anonymize your wealth. In Europe, the only way around capital controls is if you take the car, the bus, or the train, in which case, from experience, yes, you can take as much as you want without any KYC checks or border control. But that's extremely time-consuming and inconvenient. His next point was about how in a potential fiat currency collapse, people would start bartering with gold and silver bullion. Now, this is a complete garbage myth that has been circulating in the gold and silver community, especially promoted by dealers. And they all have one thing in common. They want to sell you more gold and silver. Historically, this has never been the case. Centuries after the Roman Empire collapsed, along with its currency, the European feudal states continued to use Roman currency. You heard that right. Following the collapse of the Roman Empire and its currency, the denarius, European and Middle Eastern cultures were based on credit and debt and not on precious metal coinage. And that's because precious metals were difficult to come by, so people in the community basically kept a tab on how much each person owed them. Then, at the end of the year, the community would come together and settle their debts, only paying the additional value that was owed. A great book on this topic is Daniel Graeber's 5,000 Years on Debt. He describes how barter is a modern invention and that historically, populations typically did not use bullion for trade. They used it as a store of value and hoarded it. And here's a great clip of a popular YouTuber, George Gammon, in Argentina trying to sell his gold coin, only to realize that he can barely get 50% of spot for it.
Right now, I think gold is trading at about 2,200 an ounce, right? So what I had is a 1/10 ounce. And so I sat there and I just did, okay, it's 2,200. I said, divided by 10, you got 220. So 198,000 pesos. And he was only willing to give me 100. That was his maximum price. I'm like, dude.
But guess what was valued over there? Dollars.
We asked those people right when we crossed the border, and what they literally said to me, said, what you don't understand is for us, dollars are like gold. And they literally used those words. So they're like the people's gold here in Argentina are dollars.
They literally compare dollars to gold. And I can guarantee you, my friend, that Argentinians know far more about inflation than you and I combined. And quite frankly, I don't even know where he got his information about property developers and home sellers being more open to accepting precious metals than cryptocurrencies. Listen, I just came back from Turkey, and over there, the property developers and construction companies were actually encouraging foreigners to use cryptos because the banks accept it left and right. Even in Dubai, you can buy apartments and complexes with cryptocurrencies. It's just that you have to go through an OTC dealer. You can't directly go through a bank. And from our team's experience, we just don't know any construction companies or home sellers who would be like, yes, I definitely want to give you a good deal with you paying in gold and silver. So to summarize this video, yes, buy as much gold and silver as you want as a long-term inflation hedge. Stack as much of it as you want in one location if you're not moving around all the time. No, it is not a good way to anonymize and ghost your wealth. Because of the KYC checks, because it's very difficult for you to make sure that nobody knows about it. And by the way, there was one commenter who was saying that you can get around these KYC checks by structuring, which is essentially buying smaller amounts of gold. So instead of, let's say, $20,000, you start off with $1,000 and do that with multiple dealers. But that's extremely inefficient. You'll have to go through many dealers to get, let's say, $50,000 into bars and coins. There are far more convenient methods that I've already presented in previous videos and I'll do in the future. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you enjoy this type of content, be sure to subscribe. I'll be seeing you in a different presentation. But until then, bye-bye.